So, one day, one of my cousins were cleaning out their closet, I think this was in like 2010 or so, and they just found a Game Boy game amidst everything. Seeing as they no longer had a Game Boy, they were like, "Hey, want a Game Boy game?" Sure. What game is it? Zelda. It was a Zelda game on Game Boy? And lo and behold, that's how I ended up playing Link's Awakening initially. I didn't get very far in it the first time. I couldn't quite remember why, I just didn't play it that much. In all likelihood, I was probably too addicted to my DS and PS2 at the time to really put much time into it. But a few years later, I found out that I wasn't even playing the best version of the game, which I found out existed when they released it on 3DS Virtual Console. This is where I really got into Link's Awakening. I was having a really good time with it, but I got stuck in this stupid signpost maze, which is mainly why I never finished it back then. This place was just really confusing at 13-year-old me, even with a guide. I tried to get back into it a few years later, but the game just aged really poorly, mainly with item management. Every time you want to switch items, you have to go through this slow menu screen, and you only get one item slot if you always keep your sword on you. This wouldn't be a huge deal if it weren't for the game forcing you to constantly swap out your items. This is an impressive game for the system, but the game was just bogged down by technical limitations. Link's Awakening was in desperate need for a remake, and in 2019, that's exactly what we got. When they announced it during a Nintendo Direct earlier this year, I knew what it was as soon as I saw the ship, and it was an almost magical feeling. All that Link's Awakening really needed was more buttons to work with, and it would instantly be a great game. And with this remake, we got all that and more. It's really insane how far handhelds have come, just from comparing the two. Link is out at sea during a storm, and his boat gets struck by lightning, causing him to get stranded on Koholint Island. A girl named Maroon finds him passed out on the beach and takes him to her house, where he wakes up after a little while. After getting his sword and shield back, an owl tells you that the only way to leave Koholint Island is to get 8 siren instruments, which in turn will wake the windfish sleeping inside the giant-ass egg on the title screen. And that's basically what this story is for now. Link goes from dungeon to dungeon getting these 8 instruments, and that's pretty much it. The game does start out a bit slow though. You have to run around this forest for a bit so that you can get magic powder to spray on this Tanuki thing so that you can get the key to the first dungeon. Wait, is he Terran now? What? And yeah, he does look like Mario, and you know what? I'm pretty sure Talon is supposed to be based on Mario too. Anyway, where was I? Oh yeah, the world doesn't really start to open up to you until after the second dungeon, where we get the power glove that lets you pick up heavy objects. So you really don't get to do too much exploring before then, although you do get a jump button in the first dungeon, which is pretty cool. Oh, and the way you get into the second dungeon is rescuing some villagers Bow Wow, and going on a plant murdering spree with it. That's one of my favorite parts about Link's Awakening. It has a lot of Mario enemies, weirdly enough. There's Shy Guys, Spinies, Boos, Cheep Cheeps, Goombas, Piranha Plants, even Kirby shows up in one dungeon. You can't kill Kirby, luckily. I feel bad even just stunning him. But I actually had a lot more issues with the original game now that I think about it. The text boxes were really small for one. I get that it was on Game Boy, but having so little text was just a little cumbersome to read. Not an issue this time. Same with the maps, they were kinda useless on Game Boy. They had a general enough overview of where everything was, but it could be kinda confusing at times. They have much more detail this time, and you can even put up markers like you can in Breath of the Wild. The UI in general reminds me of Breath of the Wild, which means that it's a huge improvement. The menu pops up much faster too, and I have to admit, the screen transitions on the overworld just destroyed this game's pacing. It was the Game Boy, so there wasn't much they could do about it, but it feels so much better now. Not needing to stop every 5 seconds for a screen to move over makes the game feel way faster. Your walk speed in the remake is a little slow, even with Pegasus boots, but it isn't a big deal. And speaking of new stuff in the remake, this game looks stunning. I just love this art style for reasons I'll get into later. My only issue with the graphics is how inconsistent the frame rate is. This game runs at either 60 FPS or 30 FPS, no in between. Even if it goes down to that dreaded 59 FPS that makes you throw your PC off a cliff, no, the game says that it should be 30. I have no clue why this is, but it looks really gross and choppy. I would have preferred it be 30 all the time over this. I prefer 60 FPS, don't get me wrong, but when it's this inconsistent, the consistent option just looks better overall to me. The frame rate is especially bad in the final dungeon. It felt like 30 FPS more often than not, and it made the last dungeon feel slower overall. This is a bit more of a personal complaint, but I don't like how many blurring effects this game has going on. It looks nice, I guess, but it makes it harder to see distant objects, and it would feel smoother to just not have it at all. Like, there's already a homebrew mod that removes all the blurring, and it looks so much better. And while I'm talking about complaints with the remake, you can only move in 8 directions, which feels kind of awkward with an analog stick. It's not too big of a deal, but 360-degree movement would have felt smoother when implemented properly. Also, you can't move with the D-pad for some reason. I wasn't personally bothered by it, but the D-pad doesn't do anything. Why can't you move with worth it. They redid all the music for the remake too. The new tracks do sound nice, but the best tracks in the game just sounded better than the original in my opinion. Namely Mabe Village, Tall Heights, and the Overworld theme. But they did some great stuff with the annoying tracks. Angler's Tunnel went from this annoying 30-second loop to something really serene and beautiful sounding, which is just really nice to listen to. Overall, the soundtrack is better than in the original, but the better tracks still sound better than the remade versions. But back to the game overall, so let's talk dungeons. There was 8 of them this time, with an optional 9th one, and they're good. They were fun to play through, but most of the dungeons in this game get me finished in about 20 to 30 minutes and are pretty alright overall. The thing is that most of them are just pretty unnoteworthy. But what is noteworthy about them is that almost all of them are in the shape of something, which is really cool. Key Cavern is in the shape of a key, Bottle Grotto is a bottle. It's a fun concept. Another different thing about these dungeons is that most of them need something to get into them. It's usually a key, but sometimes you can get in just by having a certain item, or a chain chomp ready to devour all in its path. They do make really cool use of items though. You have an arsenal similar to A Link to the Past, but on a Game Boy. Link's Awakening loves making you swap around items, and you often need to use multiple items at once, like using the Pegasus boots with the Rock Feather to get a long jump. Speaking of which, the Rock's Feather is used constantly. It was even these cool 2D sections that mixes in some light platforming. That was my main issue with the original. Constant item swapping killed the game's pacing, not to mention how clunky it felt. But in the remake, your Sword, Shield, Pegasus boots, and Power Glove all have dedicated buttons now, so you'll be swapping around items much less often. The dungeons were overall a good time despite being pretty standard, but the only one I wasn't big on was the Eagle's Tower. First off, you have to go through this sign maze to get a new song. This is the part I got stuck at my first time really playing this game. You read signs, they tell you go in a certain direction, to read more signs until you open the stairway to a secret cave. On Game Boy, you had to go through screen transitions, and I just couldn't wrap my head around what to do when I was younger. But now that I'm older and probably not as awful at games as I used to be, this is actually pretty easy. And again, it feels way smoother to do because of the lack of screen transitions. But anyway, once you get through that, you get a new song from... Wait, is that Wart? This dude finally came out of hiding after 20 years. Good for him. But anyway, you have to push the rooster statue in Mabe Village afterwards to revive this flying rooster so they can get the key to the dungeon. The issue is how cryptic all this is. They don't tell you what you're supposed to do with the song as far as I know. There's no indication that you can even push the statue either. There are all these hint phones scattered about, but you shouldn't have to use the hint system to figure out what you're supposed to do. It should be there for when you get stuck, not because the game doesn't nod you in the right direction otherwise. And it's weird because this is like one of 2 parts that felt needlessly cryptic. The main shtick of Eagle's Tower is that there's this ball you gotta drag around the place and use it to destroy these 4 pillars. It's not too hard to figure out, but it's just long and kinda tedious. Especially when you accidentally throw the ball into a hole and have to go all the way back to where it was before so you can set stuff up again. It's not too annoying, but just annoying enough to make me not like it much. But hey, it's got Kirby in it, so it's not all bad. Total Rock was long and hard too, but that wasn't too bad except for this one part where you have to throw a bomb into a wall surrounded by lava. It was just no indication that the wall was even bombable. I figured it out using a small indent on the map, which definitely wasn't how you were intended to figure it out. Although the worst dungeon has to be the optional color dungeon. It was added into the DX version on Game Boy Color, so they put in a bunch of stuff themed around colors. But it feels so basic and tacked on. Put these colored balls in the right colored hole, make all the switches the same color. It's all basic stuff. It's over in like 15 minutes, and it's something you might not even know about because the only indication of how to get into this place is in the library with a book on the shelf you need the Pegasus boots for. I would say to skip this place, but your reward for getting through this piss-easy dungeon is double attack or defense. So, you go through this easy-ass place and then it just makes the game easier. What? Although in the Switch version, you don't have to take a tunic if you're doing a challenge run or something, but this is the only way to increase your damage in this game. Okay, scratch that, that's only half true. Enemies can sometimes drop 1 of 2 power-ups. This mini rifles will give you double attack and faster walking speeds. Conversely, the acorn gives you double defense. Both of these are temporary though. The tunics from the color dungeon are the only way to increase them permanently. You're not locked out of one or the other either. You can come back and get the other one if you so choose. There is an optional sword upgrade, which you would think increases your attack, but no. All it does is let you break pots and give you a sword beam at full health. Lame. You have to go out of your way to get this too. You get the Covalent Sword by getting these secret shells scattered around the game and dropping off 25 of them in the original or 40 in the Switch version. They did add more secret shells in the Switch version, like damn, these things are everywhere now. But even when less shells were needed on Game Boy, this thing still isn't worth it. The overworld is pretty fun to explore though. While we do have to do the dungeons in a set order, actually running around in this place and exploring everything is really enjoyable. Although a part of that comes down to the improved fast travel on the Switch version. Before there were only 4 warp points, but now there's like 10. And before you got this song to warp to Manbo's Pond, but now it warps you to any warp point you want, so backtracking is significantly cut down this time. On Game Boy, if you wanted to use a warp point, you had to manually travel to one, unlike A Link to the Past when you could just warp whenever you wanted. Yeah, this was backwards even back then. But this time, the improved fast travel makes traveling around Koholint a lot less tedious than it was before. The most fun I had in this game was just wandering around and progressing to the next area. It's a lot like A Link to the Past in that regard. Exploring is more fun than dungeons this time around, but there weren't too many side quests as far as I know. There's hold pieces fine, but that's about it. The only real side quest in this game is this trading sequence. Well, I say side quest, but part of it is actually required to get into this castle, because you have to get this Yoshi doll from this stupid crane game, and yes, there was a Yoshi doll and it's glorious. But I need to talk about how awful this crane game is first. In the original, it was pretty annoying, but they added physics in the remake, so stuff can just roll off the crane and just really piss you off. You see how happy this kid is to get something? That's because he doesn't have to endure this pain anymore. But anyway, you need to give the Yoshi doll to this kid so that he can give you a bow that a Bow Wow will give you for some dog food, which a crocodile dude will trade you for bananas so that he can hire some monkeys to build a bridge for you, so that you can get a stick to kill some bees, to get a pineapple from a bear, so that some dude can give you a flower for it, so that some goat girl can give you a letter to a crush.
Wait, hold on, I need to talk about this part.
So there's this animal village filled with animals, and this goat girl keeps writing to Mr. White because I guess she has a crush on him. So she sends a picture of herself, but she sends a picture of Peach instead. Like, dude, I had to take a second to process that. It definitely wasn't something I was expecting.
But I don't know, you can tell this game was from the 90s. Some people would be totally into this nowadays. I just want this poor man to be a furry.
But anyway, that letter gives you a broom to give to this grandma for a fishing hook, to get a mermaid's necklace so she can give you one of her scales. Whew. Man, that made no sense. But in the original Japanese version, that necklace was actually the mermaid's bra.
You magnificent bastards. I love it.
But the reward for this place is a magnifying lens, lens of truth, that gives you the directions to go at the end of the game. And a boomerang. In the original, you had to give up something from your inventory for it, but in the remake, you can just buy back what you gave for 300 rupees and have a full inventory. Capitalism. As for other stuff, the remake now has empty bottles that you can get. The first you get from this ghost from helping him visit his grave. It's hard to miss. The second one you get from this weird fishing minigame. Oh my god. Look at how genuinely happy Link is. Good for you, man. Follow your dreams. In only the DX version of the game, there was also this photography side quest that you can do. Basically, if you do certain things, you'll have a picture taken. They don't do anything, but they're cool to look at. There are a few time-sensitive ones that you can take while Marion is with you doing one part of the game, but I didn't know that you could do this stuff, so that's awkward. These extra Marion cutscenes won't remove from the Switch version as far as I know, so you're not really missing too much from this exclusion. But they did replace this photo side quest with something else. You can make your own dungeons. That's cool as hell. On paper, this is the most tacked on thing imaginable. It's only rooms that the game already has for the most part. You can't customize them at all, and they force you to do this garbage for 100%. Like, that's the biggest waste of potential. You'll get some more heart pieces and a third bottle for doing these tedious tutorials, but you don't really need them. I didn't die once during this game. Bottle fairies don't revive you this time around, but there's this cream that you can buy, refine in dungeons, that revives you with full health when you die, so this game isn't that hard. At least not for me. There is a hero mode where you take double damage and holds don't spawn, so if you find the difficulty boring, just go for that. But if you want the best ending, you have to beat the whole game without dying, which is really dumb. And it's just an extension of the normal ending anyway. Like, what's the point? It was like that in the original too. I never understood this. But speaking of the ending, the story of this game is actually really cool. Seriously, don't spoil yourself about this stuff, but I really want to talk about it. As you progress through the game, something about Koholint is definitely up. The shrine tells you that this place is an illusion and that waking the windfish will make it disappear. What? Even the bosses start telling you that the island and everything on it is going to disappear if the windfish wakes up. At the end of the Eagle's Tower, it turns out that Coldland Island is a dream world, and by waking the windfish up, everything on the island, including all of its inhabitants, will be gone forever. You start to wonder if getting these instruments are even worth it. Link isn't the only one in this world that actually is real. He's got a life too. He can't just stay here forever, just like any dream, and has to end eventually. Even though it feels like we want to sometimes, you can't just sleep forever. Now, this is a cool twist. It isn't out of left field or anything like, oh, actually, the last 2 seasons were a dream, none of that happened. No, this has been foreshadowed the entire game, and a lot of stuff makes more sense now. The art style change from anime cutscene to this cutesy diorama style, this random island no one's ever heard of, the fact that everyone thinks there's nothing beyond said island, bosses are called nightmares, all the Mario enemies and references, Ward was from another game that was all a dream, Kirby in a Zelda game, the game is even called Link's Awakening for God's sake. This is cool. We've all had dreams where random garbage happens and you just accept it. Like, why else would there be Goombas in a Zelda game? I've had all kinds of weird dreams like that. I'm just doing something normal and the Smash roster is suddenly finding the cast of Ruby, and I just don't question it because it's a dream. We've all had that dream when we met that special someone too. Yeah, Marion has a love interest for Link, and they're just so cute together. And too bad she isn't real. Wow, this game is realistic. But that's why I love the art style in the remake. It really gives it this dreamlike vibe. The unrealistic instruments in the original soundtrack did that too. But to the remake's credit, it does sample Game Boy instruments into the remade tracks, which I really like. It's almost like a mix of dreams and realism. But all things have to come to an end, so we play the instruments in front of the windfish. What the hell? Alright, let's go inside the giant egg. I'm sure it's fine. I really like what they've done with the place in the remake. On Game Boy, it looked like some generic dungeon, but it totally looks like some dreamscape now. That's really cool. But to get through this place, you need to use that magnifying glass from the training quest to go through the rooms in the right order. You can do it through trial and error, but this is how you're supposed to do it, which feels really awkward. Especially when you either didn't finish it or didn't know about the book in the library. It murders the pacing when you don't know about it. But now it's time for the final boss, the final nightmare of the windfish's dream. It's a boss rush, weirdly. There's a few phases that are new, but it's a pretty alright final boss. The Ganon phase was annoying though, mainly because I couldn't figure out how to damage him. I'm pretty sure he was supposed to spin for some reason. After the last nightmare's been defeated, apparently the owl that's been following you around is the spirit of the windfish. Huh. As you play the Song of Awakening one last time, you watch the island just disappear in this really bittersweet kind of way. I don't know how to describe it. It's kind of sad that everyone you've met is gone, but it feels like it was supposed to happen. Like everyone played their role and it's time to move on. After getting hit by this giant water spout, Link just wakes up as the windfish flies by him like nothing happened. And if you beat the game without dying, Marion is implied to have been reincarnated as a seagull like she wanted. That's really sweet. Look at that smile, Link. Don't forget about her. The ending is just really bittersweet and honestly kind of beautiful in a way. It's a bit abrupt, but basically every dream ends abruptly. It's fitting in its own weird way. It's not too abrupt to come off as lazy, but abrupt enough to make you feel like there's something more. Almost like you alone wakes you up from a dream and you're still thinking about the dream you just had. Dreams are just fascinating, man. And this game really captures that dreamy feeling when it needs to. While I did have some issues with Link's Awakening, the remake modernizes everything and makes it a really good game now. While the original wasn't unplayable or anything, it hasn't aged well, and the better controls and improvements just make the remake a way better game to play. I had been wanting a remake of Link's Awakening for years, and to finally see it and have it be this good of a remake, man, that feels satisfying. Although I think it would be better priced at $40. Now, as someone with a massive bias boner towards Zelda, I would pay the extra money, but considering it's a 25-year-old game, the price for the remake is a little steep. Definitely wait for a sale if money's tight. But if you take the plunge anyway, this is a really good time. If you want a game with a similar feel to A Link to the Past, but with more traditional Zelda dungeon design, this is your best bet. It's pretty short by Zelda standards. I beat it in about 11 hours, but I honestly didn't mind the length. This game's got little filler, and there's very few down points because of it.
While I wouldn't say Link's Awakening was one of my favorites, it was a pretty great time despite its issues. And you know, the Oracle games are pretty similar to Link's Awakening. A remake of those games using the same engine would be really cool. Breath of the Wild 2 probably isn't coming out for a few more years, so why not? But at the end of the day, at least we got this game to play.
This has been Flame Guy, and while I'd say I'm a pretty happy person in general, I aspire to be as happy as Link is whenever he catches a fish in this game. Take care, and I'll see you all next mission.